So today I've got more of a lifestyle-y, tips and tricksy, mental healthy, exciting for me kind of video. That was a really long-winded way of introing. And there's a plane. Is this too light? Hello? I'm here. So you can probably already tell by the title, but this week I passed my driving test. Oh my god, anyone that knows me knows that this has been such a long journey for me, like such a... It has taken me such a long time to finally pass. So my learning to drive journey was a bit like a roller coaster. I've had really good times, I've had really bad times, like good lessons, bad lessons. It's been a bit of both. Now if you've seen some of my other videos, you may or may not know that I actually suffer with anxiety. I have anxiety, and that's kind of caused, for me personally, it's caused my learning to drive journey to be quite a roller coaster. It's caused quite a few downs, but it's also made the highs extra high, in that I finally passed. And I thought that whilst I was learning, it would be really helpful for me to make this sort of video explaining my journey, giving tips that I've managed to figure out on how to deal with anxiety whilst driving, and all that sort of thing really. Plus, I think it's going to be quite an interesting story for some people, as there's been a lot of stuff that's happened. But anyway, I've got a lot to talk about, so I'm going to stop blabbing on and let's just get into the video. So I'm going to start off by explaining my sort of journey, experience, what's gone on, then going to go on to some tips and tricks I've tried to like write down, brainstorm, figure out what I've learned whilst learning to drive and having anxiety, because learning to drive is quite a big thing, and when you have anxiety it can be quite scary, at least for me. And driving was actually a very big trigger for my anxiety whilst I was learning. Like, it was, at the time, one of the main things, not main things, it was one of the biggest things that triggered it. But yeah, I think one of the reasons my whole learning to drive thing has been so long and has taken so long is the interference my anxiety has made to it. So as an overview of how long this sort of journey has taken, I started driving. So if I keep looking down here, I've got a little book with notes that I've written down, which I don't usually do for videos, but I had so much I wanted to talk about that I didn't want to forget everything, so that's why I've written it all down here. Oh, I need to sneeze now. In the UK, you have to be 17 to be able to drive, so that's when my driving thing started. My first lesson was on the 20th of September 2016, so 2 days after my 17th birthday. And I passed on the 17th, was it? 17th of July 2018, so almost 2 years. I figured it out to be a year and 10 months-ish. That's how long it took me to pass, which has been a long and agonising year and 10 months for both me and my parents. So I first started to learn to drive with an instructor that one of my best friends, Erin, had. But I actually stopped lessons with her about, I couldn't figure it out exactly. It's in the beginning half of 2017, so I think about April-ish, but that might be wrong. I just wasn't getting on with her. Not in like personality wise, my anxiety kind of got in the way, and my mum thinks she didn't handle it in the best way, and it was just causing a lot of stress for me, so I stopped lessons, which honestly, if I had carried on lessons, I probably would have passed a bit sooner, but I couldn't help it. It got to the point where I was getting in the car, making one mistake. As soon as I made that one mistake, I'd have like a massive panic and cry. So she'd take me home instead of carrying on the lessons, which would just waste money, waste her time, hiccups, waste my time, and overall I wasn't getting anywhere with the learning. But before I actually cancelled having lessons with her, like stopped having lessons, I had booked a test already. Like, we had booked a test for the 15th of June 2017, which was only about a month or two away after I'd cancelled. And my driving instructor was being a bit weird. She was kind of contradicting herself. One day she was like, oh yeah, take it. Even if you're not like 100% ready, it will give you the experience of doing the test so you'll be calmer for the next one. Like, which I thought was really helpful. Knowing that I could go into that test thinking, right, I'm not going to pass this, but it would get me experience. And if on the may chance I might pass, but obviously I didn't. But then she was like, you're not ready, you're not going to take it. And I was like, well, you're confusing me. But we cancelled the lessons and we ended up having me take it anyway because I did have a car. My mum and dad had bought a car off of my uncle, so that was my car at the time. It was a Mazda 2, it was either a Mazda or a Mazda 2, Toyota. But I didn't get on with that car. Like, I couldn't drive it, the clutch was too hard to use. And that's kind of what caused me to fail that first test actually. Nothing else really went wrong. I just stalled too many times at a hill junction. I couldn't get out, like I couldn't control the clutch. And also on a hill, but I couldn't control, sorry. I couldn't control the car, which obviously isn't good. You're gonna fail. But yeah, after I had stopped the lessons, I did carry on learning with my dad, which is why we still took the test. And as I only failed that because of the car, me and my dad thought, right, if I practice the hill starts and with the clutch, I should be good to go for the next test. So we booked one for the middle of July, that same year, so only a month later. And yeah, didn't pass that either, so that's number 2. That one was more, let me see what I wrote here. I was too cautious, and like I was too scared of stalling the car that I didn't go up the gears like properly, and yeah, that failed me. But mum and dad were like, no, you're so close. Again, it's still the car, so maybe we'll do a crash course, which is basically you have 4 hours before your test with an instructor, like a random instructor. This sort of thing was made for people who have failed their tests. And yeah, I've lost my train of thought. So yeah, you do this 4 hours driving, then you go on with the test. So it was a different car for me, a different instructor, which obviously set off the anxiety. I was like, oh my god, I'm getting in a car with a stranger. But after being in the car with him for 4 hours, I kind of calmed myself down a bit. However, I failed that test again, obviously. This one was in September-ish, so that was 2 months after the previous one. I think it was about a month and a half actually, because it was right at the beginning of September. Because it was a different car, I was driving off, like I'd pulled the handbrake at a traffic light thing, which I don't really do now. I don't really use my handbrake unless I'm stopping the car. I didn't put it down properly, but I didn't know that, so the car just started beeping at me and I was starting to panic. I was like, what is that beeping? And because when you're having like a panic, anxiety moment, like when you panic attack, it wasn't a panic attack because I wasn't crying, but I was panicking. I can't hear things properly. I'm just thinking of the issue. My head is just kind of, oh my god, there's a problem. It's just doing that. So I actually couldn't really hear the instructor properly. I wasn't really like, it wasn't going in. I was like, could you tell me what that is, please? That's what I said to him. Obviously that's going to fail because he has to interfere. He completely ignored my question and was like, can you get into the lane, please? Like, he was so rude, so rude. I was panicking, there was a beeping noise, and I thought that was something wrong with the car. I didn't know at that point that it was just the handbrake. But I got into the lane he told me to, and then he was like, can you put your handbrake down? He was so sarcastic. Oh, I don't even remember the route of that test because I was in so much panic the whole time because I knew I'd failed that I just don't remember it. And then at the end of that test I also failed because I had the back of the car sticking out a bit at like a pulling bit of traffic light. I'm so bad at explaining things, just ignore my explanations. But yeah, he was so rude, and at the end he was like, and at the end of the test you just sat in the middle of the road. And I was like, I know I failed, just go away. I actually can't remember when I got my Fiat. When did I get to my car? So seeing as the Mazda was not working for me, I couldn't drive it properly, we started looking for a new car for me, which I helped pay for. I paid for half of it using money I got for my 18th birthday from my uncle. So I got my little baby in middle of October-ish, and I had a test booked beginning of November. So I took this next test in my new car, so didn't have a problem with the clutch, I could drive this car. I also decided to bring my mum along, because you can have the option to bring someone along in the car with you, sit in the back. They're not allowed to say anything, they're not allowed to interfere. It just could be helpful and comforting knowing that you've got someone that you know in the car, which helped a lot for me in that situation. So I wasn't in the car with a complete stranger, because I figured out that that was one of the things that triggered the anxiety, was being in a car with someone that either I didn't know, which was in the test, or even with an instructor. They're judging every move you do. They're not judging, but that's what the anxiety tells you. They're there teaching you, but they are paying attention to every single thing you do. So when you do something wrong, they have to talk about it, which my brain did not like. But yeah, Mum was in the car with me, I was calmer. But she was very harsh, this examiner. Like, even Mum said, one of the bits she gave me a major for was so harsh. Like, I was coming out of the junction, I could only turn left. I slowed down as far as I could, like, as much as I slowed down and started edging out as much as I could, because there was like a lorry or something, a van park, so I couldn't really see much. But as I saw, there was these two motorbikes right down the end of the road, so I was like, right, I'm going to go now so I don't get marked down for hesitation. They were speeding, so when I pulled out of this junction, mind you, I probably could have done it a little bit faster, but it wasn't... No, wait. No, she said I pulled out of it too fast, but then, because the motorbikes were speeding, they just came right up my backside, so I couldn't have won in that situation. And they were like, oh, you slowed them down. They were speeding. Sorry, I'm just got my key. They were the ones speeding, so that really annoyed me. But I did mess up really badly at like a traffic like four-way junction thing. I was meant to wait in the middle and I waited in a bad place, or I drove through something, I don't know, it's like out there. But yeah, that was fail number 4. Then I got another instructor. So my mum and dad were like, if you don't pass this one, we're gonna have to get you an instructor. So dad has spent ages looking, and he found this one that specialised in people with anxiety. And after like having lessons with him, I spoke to him about it, and it's because he also suffers with anxiety, so he understands. But before that, I had a massive panic attack, like literally the biggest panic attack ever, right before going into this. Like, I couldn't get in the car. I did in the end, but I was getting in the car with someone I didn't know, and I don't really remember much. It's really hard to explain how you're feeling in the moment of a panic attack, because you can't think of anything but like the issue. So hard to explain. But yeah, I had 2 lessons with him, and in the second one, like, anxiety was really bad and I cried and it didn't go very well. And we decided, Mum and Dad, they were like, right, we're just gonna have to stop it. It's causing too much stress for me. But literally that day or the day after I messaged my this driving instructor to say I'm gonna stop lessons, I got some offers to work at weddings, which I've done recently, so I needed to drive for those. Turns out I didn't actually drive for them because I hadn't passed then. But at the time, I needed to drive for them, but he just never got back to me. He just ignored my next message. I was like, I'm sorry for messing you around, but... And he was expensive. He was an expensive one, but that didn't work out. So we looked again, and I actually ended up getting a driving instructor who one of my friends had. And he was the one that helped me pass. And I knew he wasn't too bad because this friend also has anxiety, so I know that if she can manage with him, I can manage with him. And it just turned out he just worked a lot better for me. Like, when I was having sort of a panic and I started to get upset, he'd pull me over, we'd pull over, I'd wipe my tears. This is at the beginning. He'd be like, right, okay, why are you crying? So I'd say, and most of the time I'd say, I don't know. And then as we got later on into like lessons, it got to the stage where I could drive. I was just so critical of myself, and I'm such a perfectionist that if I got something wrong and he'd correct me, that would trigger my whole like entire, like my guard would go up. It's like a cat. I'd be like my back would go up and I'd be like, ah, back me into a wall. Oh my god, I've done something wrong. He hates me. Ah, he's judging me. Ah. And it got to the stage where he did exactly what I needed at that stage. Get on with it. He'd just be like, stop crying. Get on with it. There's nothing wrong. In this moment, you're crying, and there's no need to be. So I think that kind of helped me. That's what I needed, I figured out. I didn't need the one that had anxiety who was very lenient. We were like, okay, we'll pull over, we'll sit here for half an hour, we won't do anything. Because I will never have got there. Greg? he helped me there. He just told me to get on with it, and that helped me. But that might not work for some other people. Like, if you have anxiety, that might stress you out even more if someone's sat there going, get on with it, just do it, just do it. But my motto at the moment has been, just do it. So for him to sit there and go, get on with it, it's kind of a way of saying, just do it. And that's what I just keep telling myself at the moment. If I'm anxious about something, just do it. If I can't be bothered to do something, just do it. I'd still feel anxious before lessons, like even up until the last few lessons. When I get a text saying like, oh, can you do that? It set my anxiety off the side, like my chest would go in and my brain would mess up. And I would feel anxious from the night before all the way until I'd had that lesson, and then it's like a massive relief after the lesson, because driving lessons for me were however long the lesson was, so between an hour and a half for me usually, an hour and a half of pure anxiety, which was so draining. But worth it in the end, because I have now driven out. I haven't actually driven being in the car fully by myself, but I have been in the car without an adult in the car. So I'm feeling a lot better about myself. Oh my god, I still can't believe it. Right, 5th test came along. Now I was very anxious for this test because the style of a driving test changed in December of 2017. So new things were added, things were taken out, you had to do some things differently. So that I was very anxious about that, because yes, I'd done 4 driving tests before that, but they were 4 driving tests that were different. So instead of doing 2 questions, like answering 2 car safety questions before, you do 1 before and then you'd have to do something while on the move. So like I had demist the back window, or show me how you'd work the back windscreen wipers, that sort of thing. But I again failed that. I was in a country lane, there was a lorry, I was probably going a bit too fast, I was too far. I wasn't like zooming down a country lane, I was probably going about 30, but I hadn't slowed down enough or slowed to a stop that because I was still moving, my wing mirror actually was bashed into the side of the car, like it got pushed inwards by the trees. So he had to like pull me over and we had to fix that. It wasn't really much, he just went but, sorry I'm looking again. He then was so, this infuriates me. I was reversing out of a bay. I'd already failed by this point, but I didn't know that. Reversing out of a bay. And I'm looking everywhere, making sure everything's fine. I've seen this car, it's in a car park, so it's slow and it's stopping. He just slams his foot on the brake and goes, there's a car there. Yeah, it's not moving, it's literally sat still. It's waiting for me to come out. I'm already half out the bay. What? It can't get past me. I don't know what you're... So that, obviously, he'd put his foot on the brake, which is an instant foul. He has interfered. So that got me worked up and upset, and I started to panic, and then I started to cry. So as I was driving out of this little car park, which is next door to Tess, I was like, tears were coming. And then a woman wasn't on the zebra crossing. Don't worry, I didn't nearly hit a woman, but she was on the bit before the zebra crossing, so I was about to cross it, and she was on the other side of the road, so I was nowhere near hitting her, but you're meant to stop. But because I was so panicked, I didn't stop, and yeah, that was the 3rd major. But finally, we got to Tuesday this week, and I passed. 6th time lucky. 6 is actually one of my favourite / lucky numbers. It's 4 and 6, so if it wasn't going to be try number 4, which it clearly wasn't, it was try number 6. I had a nice examiner. My driving instructor even said he doesn't really come in our area very often, but he is one of the nice ones. He kept like do-do-doing and being really casual. He kept actually hinting at me. Not really hinting, he kept asking me like, oh, what's the speed here? Trying to like, he even said at the end, I was mentioning the speed limits because you were going slow. So I was going a bit too slow in some areas, but there were a lot of speed bumps there, and that's my reason. And then also there was one point there was hesitation when going into a junction, like there was a big lorry coming, and after that he was like, have you had issues in your lessons with hesitation? Which obviously I have anxiety, so I'm going to be a bit overcautious, but I was like, not really, because I used the whole thing of if you would cross the road walking then you can go. He was like, you wouldn't cross the road walking there then, and I was like, no, because there was a massive lorry coming. Oh, and it wasn't like it was really far away, but I could have got through there. And then right at the end, I had a massive stress situation. Right coming back into the assessment, I was literally starting to go into gear 2 to get down to turn in. A woman in the I don't know what it's called. So you turn in there and like the junction before coming out, just pulled out on us. So I had to do an emergency stop, which I did. and my examiner slammed his hand on that horn. He had his feet on the brakes as well because he gets tin pedals, but I did it at the same time. So honestly, for about 5 to 10 seconds his hand was on that horn for, just to make sure she knew that she had nearly hit us. So I was like, sorry, after that. And he was like, why are you sorry? She didn't do anything. So that kind of reassured me that I did nothing wrong there. When he told me that I'd passed, honestly, I was so used to the whole, I'm really sorry, but, or I'm very sorry. And he was like, I've just got to do paperwork, and they've said that every single time, so I was like, I'm just getting myself ready to like, and he told me and I was like, oh my god, I was so happy. And I cried 3 times. I cried then, and then I cried when I told my mum, and then I cried when I told my dad on the phone. I was sobbing when I told my mum, like I was sobbing. A year and 10 months of stress, and it's finally over. I finally passed. I full on, I'm not even, no shame, I stuck this on my wall. I'm keeping it in the car at the moment because I don't have a licence, so if someone pulls me over I can go, I can't drive, because they take your provisional away. But I finally passed on my 6th term. Anyway, on to the tips and tricks. This video is going to be so long. So the first one is a little tip for just driving in general if you don't have anxiety. Like, this is just a good tip for learning to drive. If you have your own car, if you're insured on your parents' car and you go out practicing with them, don't do it more than you go out with your instructor. So say if you go out with your instructor once a week, only go out with your parents once a week. Don't go out with them too often because you will pick up bad habits. After learning solidly with my dad, who isn't a driving instructor, I picked up a lot of bad habits because when I then got into getting back into instructors again, they were like, don't do this, don't do that. So you will pick up bad habits. Next are the tips that helped me, or that I figured out, that relate to the whole anxiety thing. So the first one is find an instructor that works for you. For me, one of the things that made me most anxious was getting in a car with someone new that was like watching everything you do, which I didn't really like. My anxiety is very much based around unknown, not knowing things, kind of control, sort of that sort of thing. But if you find an instructor that works for you, that you get on well with, and the thing is, you can get on well with an instructor, but if their teaching style doesn't work for you, then it's just going to make you more and more anxious. Next, a thing that I found helped me once I realised it is figure out what it is about driving that triggers your anxiety. So for me, it was messing up. Oh, hiccup again. It's like hiccups slash burp. I don't know what it is. It's weird. I'm sorry, it's gross, pardon me. So for me, one thing that really triggered it in the lessons was when I messed up. I was worried that the instructor would kind of be judging me. But what I had to keep telling myself is that you are learning. If you didn't mess up, then you would have already passed your test. Like, you're still learning to drive. It's like doing maths. You can't get every single question right, otherwise you'd be a famous mathematician. Like, you are learning how to do it. You are figuring out as you go. You're getting experience. You're not gonna be perfect first time, which is very hard for me to understand because I'm such a perfectionist. And another thing that, oh, the dogs are barking. And another thing that triggered it was like the whole not knowing things. So when you're on the road, you don't know what other people are going to do. That weren't the biggest thing for me. And another thing that triggered it for me was the tests. So the whole, I don't know this person that I'm going into the test with that's going to be sitting in the car next to me watching me. But it's so hard to do, and honestly, I know it's easier said than done, because when I'm in an anxious state and in a panicked state, none of these things go in. But you have got to think they're a human being, because I feel my anxiety dehumanises people. Like, I don't think of people as people, I think of them as these horrible, like my anxiety tells me, oh my god, they're just this horrible thing that's just judging you and that hates you and you've done everything wrong. That's what my brain tells me, and it drives me insane because I know they're not. They're just people like me. They're just a person. They are just a person like you. Anyway, back to the little tip. I went on a bit of a rant then. Ramble, I don't know. So once you've figured out the triggers, make a point to yourself whilst you're driving, or when you notice your anxiety starting to get bad or your brain starting to tell you things that you've realised are the triggers. Make a point to notice and tell yourself the things that like kind of argue against it. So when your brain does tell you, oh my god, you've messed up, they hate you, tell yourself, I'm learning. They don't hate me. I'm paying them to teach me. I'm paying them. I am paying them. That helped me a lot. I am paying the instructor, so they are working for me. I'm not working for them. Yeah, I'm their student, but technically you've paid them. So they're just trying to help you. That's all they're trying to do. But yeah, I think that's all I had to say in my little notebook. My voice hurts so much. I've been talking for probably nearly 45 minutes straight. I'm going to try and cut this video down into as short a video as possible because I know it's so long at the moment. But what can you do? I talk a lot and I have a lot to say. I mean, I've been learning for a while. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do want me to do any videos based around like whole mental health and anxiety thing, then just comment down below. I think I will do one at some point. I also want to do a Q&A at some point, but I think I'll wait till 1k. I'll do a Q&A at 1k maybe. Or if you have any ideas for a 1k video, let me know in the comments. But yeah, follow my Instagram and stuff because I'm always posting stuff on my story. Always. I use my Instagram story more than my Snapchat. I barely use Snapchat anymore, like barely. And yeah, I hope this video was helpful, even though half of it was just me talking about my driving experience. If it wasn't helpful, I hope it was entertaining. Hope you found some joy out of my chat. My hair's really bugging me because it's not straight and I straightened it. Anyway, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and I will see you in my next one. Bye! I passed!